purpose of this video is to describe the process used for creating an IPN file. The presentation file, you're going to use the standard or the metric IPN, and the way this is going to work is you are actually going to take this thing apart the same way you would take it apart if you were really taking it apart. The main thing that you want to focus on is that your assembly constraints when you built a piece are correct. If the assembly constraints are correct, then you should have no problems completing the rest of this. Now, tweaking components is something that takes a little bit of practice, but as you get used to the process that's used, it becomes easier and easier. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to run through that process with this idler pulley. There's only a few pieces. There's this frame, there is the wheel, there's a shaft going through, and there's a bushing inside that we can't even see right now. So what I'm going to do is expand this, that way I can see everything, all four pieces, because some of these pieces are going to need to move at the same time. So here's what we're going to do. We're first going to go to tweak components. Now, you can pick everything that you want to pick in tweak components. Let me make sure nothing is selected. You can pick the direction, you can pick the components, you can pick the trail origin, you can pick everything that you want to pick, or you can use the assembly constraints that you used to pull this thing apart rather quickly. And the way that works is if I hover over a piece, say for example this shaft, I can see that my XY plane automatically selects to the face, and that my Z direction picks the depth of the shaft. Every tweak is defaulted to move along the Z. So once I see my crosshairs looking like this, I can simply left click and drag, and it's going to drag my shaft out. Notice I did not have to pick anything over here. All I had to do was left click and drag. Once this goes to the point where I want it to go, I simply hit clear. I can then focus on my next piece. And in this case, this is the piece that I want to move. But this isn't the only piece that I want to move, so I've got to do a little bit of extra work. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to left click components, and in here I'm going to pick the pulley and the bushing by holding shift down. That selects both of those components. Then I'll pick the direction, and in this case I'm going to pick this center line. The blue, it's showing me that it wants to move along the Z, but I want to move it along the Y, so I'm going to click Y right here. Then I'm going to go to trail origin, and again I'm just going to pick anywhere on here. I can pick the center point, I can pick the top point. It doesn't necessarily matter where I pick as long as I pick a good accurate location. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick right here and left click and drag straight up. And what that does is that brings both of those pieces up. I can now hit clear and then drag this piece out. Hit clear and close, and now this thing is completely pulled apart. Now I can save this and I can use it in a drawing file and I can do a lot of other things, but the other thing that I can do is I can come in here and say animate. And when I hit play, it's going to put this thing back together in the reverse order that I took it apart. This serves well for assembly instructions or just basically showing how a component is actually supposed to work. So I'm going to go ahead and reset that, and I also have the option right here to record this, and I can record this to a WMV file, which is a Windows Media video file that can be used in a PowerPoint presentation or anything else. Other objects might be a little bit more complex in taking them apart and having them go back together, but the main thing is focus on the basics for this particular object. Take some of the assemblies that you've already done, pull them apart, put them together, play with different things that you can do with them, and you should have no problems getting through this.